I never thought one sentence could change my entire life. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You could never be a father." The words stung deeper than I'd like to admit. I laughed it off in that moment, but inside, it felt like my heart cracked. I wanted to be a dad more than anything, and hearing those words from the person I loved the most, it was like she didn't just doubt me, she erased the future I'd been dreaming of. You know, sometimes people say things in anger, or maybe to protect themselves. But this didn't feel like that. It felt final, like she had already decided who I was, and who I'd never get to be. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But doesn't everyone deserve a chance to prove they're more than their worst moments? The truth is, I didn't grow up with much. My own dad wasn't around, and maybe that's why I wanted it so badly, because I knew what it felt like to go without it. I swore that when it was my turn, I'd give my child the love and presence I never had. But now, here I was, being told that dream was impossible, that I wasn't good enough. It hurt, more than I can put into words. Still, I stayed. I stayed because I thought if I loved her hard enough, if I proved myself enough, she'd change her mind. But the harder I tried, the more distant she became, and the more she reminded me of what she thought I couldn't do. It was like I was chasing someone who had already walked away. But here's where it gets complicated. Life has a way of throwing you curveballs. Sometimes, the people who tell you no unknowingly open the door to the biggest yes of your life. I didn't see it at the time. I was too caught up in the rejection, the bitterness, the quiet nights where I replayed her words over and over again. I felt small. I felt invisible. And then, her sister walked into the picture. Not in the way you might think at first. She wasn't some replacement or some escape. No, she was someone who actually saw me, the real me. Someone who didn't see my past as a reason to write off my future. She saw what I had been trying to prove all along, that I wasn't broken, that I had something to give, that maybe, just maybe, I could be a father. But I'll be honest with you. What happened next? I didn't see it coming. Not in a million years. Because while one woman told me I'd never be a dad, her sister gave me the chance to prove her wrong. And the way it happened? That's where the story really begins. When I first met her, I thought I'd found the one. She had this confidence that drew people in, like she always knew exactly what she wanted. And I'll admit, at the start, I loved that about her. She was bold, outspoken, and never afraid to tell me when I was wrong. It felt like she kept me in check, like she was pulling me toward a better version of myself. But over time, that sharp honesty of hers started cutting deeper than it should have. Every mistake I made, big or small, was pointed out. Every flaw I had seen magnified. And slowly, I began to feel less like her partner and more like her project. Still, I held on. Because when you've been searching for love for so long, it's easy to ignore the cracks in the foundation. You tell yourself things will change, that she'll soften, that maybe, if you just prove yourself, the love you feel will be enough for both of you. And then came the conversations about family. I remember the first time I told her how badly I wanted to be a dad. We were sitting on the couch, a movie playing in the background, and I said it without really thinking, just being honest. I thought she'd smile, maybe lean in and dream with me. Instead, she laughed. Not in a cruel way at first, but in that dismissive, "you're not serious" kind of way. But I was serious, more than she realized. From then on, anytime the topic of kids came up, she'd brush it off. Sometimes she'd make excuses about not being ready. Other times, she'd tell me flat out that I wasn't cut out for it, that I didn't have the patience, that I didn't have the stability, that I didn't have enough. And the more she said it, the more I started to believe her. Her sister, though, she was different. Where my girlfriend saw flaws, her sister saw effort. Where my girlfriend saw failures, her sister saw lessons. She didn't baby me, but she didn't tear me down either. It was like she knew how to meet people where they were, instead of expecting them to already be perfect. We weren't close in the beginning. Just polite hellos at family gatherings, quick chats over dinner, small jokes that faded into the background. But even in those moments, she felt warmer, easier to be around. I didn't realize how much I needed that until things with my girlfriend got heavier. The house turned quiet. Conversations turned into arguments. Affection turned into distance. And every time I looked at her, I couldn't shake her words. "You'll never be a father." But the thing about life is, sometimes, it plants seeds in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the person you least expect to change your life is standing right there, waiting for you to notice. What I didn't know back then was that everything was about to shift, faster than I could handle. And it all started with one family dinner I'll never forget. That family dinner was supposed to be ordinary. Just a casual night with her parents, her sister, and a few friends gathered around the table. But looking back, that evening was the spark that lit the fire I didn't know was coming. Everything started fine. Jokes, stories, the usual chatter. I tried to blend in, to show I was the supportive boyfriend who had it all under control. But somewhere between the second glass of wine and dessert, the conversation shifted. Her mom asked a simple question. So, when are we going to have grandkids? The room went silent. I felt my girlfriend's eyes cut into me before I even opened my mouth. I laughed nervously, said something about someday, and that's when she dropped it. He's not exactly dad material, she said. Just like that. At the dinner table, in front of her whole family. Everyone chuckled awkwardly, trying to brush it off like a joke, but I knew she meant it. I saw it in her face. The words hit me harder than I wanted to admit, and all I could do was sit there, pretending I wasn't crushed. And then, her sister spoke up. That's not fair, she said, her voice calm but firm. You don't know that. The room froze. My girlfriend shot her sister a glare sharp enough to cut glass. I kept my head down, my heart racing, not sure whether to feel grateful or ashamed. For the rest of the night, the tension was thick. My girlfriend barely looked at me. Her sister, on the other hand, kept giving me these quiet glances, like she was silently saying, I see you. After dinner, when everyone was leaving, she pulled me aside. Just a quick moment in the hallway. She said softly, don't let her convince you of something you're not. That sentence stuck with me, played over in my head long after we left. But it also created a storm I couldn't escape. Because the more my girlfriend tore me down, the more her sister's words echoed inside me. And that shift, tiny at first, was about to grow into something that would change all of our lives. I just didn't know it yet. Because the next time I saw her sister, everything exploded. The weeks after that dinner felt like walking through a minefield. Every word between me and my girlfriend seemed sharper, heavier. She barely touched me, barely looked at me. It was as if she was punishing me for her sister's defense, like I had secretly asked her to take my side. But I hadn't. And that was the problem, because a part of me wished I had. I couldn't stop thinking about her words in the hallway. Don't let her convince you of something you're not. It was the first time in months I felt seen, really seen, by anyone. And the fact that it came from her sister made it all the more complicated. One night, after another fight at home, I found myself outside, walking aimlessly. My phone buzzed. It was a message. Not from my girlfriend, but from her sister. Are you okay? 3 simple words, but they broke me. Someone actually cared enough to ask. I told myself it was innocent, that she was just being kind. But the more we talked, the harder it became to ignore how easy it felt with her. She didn't criticize, didn't laugh at my dreams. She listened. She encouraged. She reminded me of the person I wanted to be, not the one I was afraid of becoming. Days turned into weeks, and our quiet conversations became a lifeline. She asked me things no one else did. Things like, what kind of father do you want to be? What would you teach your kids? And each time, I answered with a conviction I didn't even know I had. But with every word I spoke to her, the distance between me and my girlfriend grew wider. She noticed, of course. She accused me of being distracted, of pulling away. She had no idea how right she was. The guilt ate at me. I didn't want to betray her, even though she'd already broken me in ways I couldn't fix. But the harder I tried to push her sister out of my mind, the more she slipped in. Then came the night everything shifted. It was late. My girlfriend had stormed out after another fight, leaving me alone in the silence of our apartment. And that's when there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there she was. Her sister, standing there with this look on her face that was equal parts worry and something else I couldn't quite name. She stepped inside, closed the door, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt charged, like something big was about to break. And then she whispered, almost trembling, I need to tell you something. Her words hung in the air like a secret too heavy to breathe. I need to tell you something, she said again, her voice shaking. I braced myself, not knowing what was coming. Maybe she was about to confess the same feelings I'd been too afraid to admit. Maybe she was about to warn me that my girlfriend knew more than she let on. But what came out of her mouth knocked the ground right out from under me. I'm pregnant. I froze. Pregnant? My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. She looked at me with wide, terrified eyes, and I realized she wasn't joking. This was real. And then, before I could even form a single word, she added the part that made my blood run cold. And it's yours. Everything around me went silent. The walls, the air, even my own thoughts, gone. All I could hear was the echo of her words. Her sister, pregnant, with my child. And in that instant, I knew nothing about my life would ever be the same. Because if she was telling the truth, then one woman's curse had just become another woman's reality. I couldn't move. Her words kept replaying in my head, louder and louder. I'm pregnant, and it's yours. My chest tightened, my mind spun, and yet, beneath the shock, something stirred. For so long, I had been told I could never be a father. And now, here was the very proof that I could. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also the thing I had been aching for my entire life. But the moment wasn't just mine. She was standing there, trembling, tears building in her eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I don't even know what to do. But I couldn't keep it from you. I wanted to reach for her, to hold her, but the weight of what this meant crashed down on me. Her sister, my girlfriend, would find out. And when she did, there would be no coming back. That night was chaos. My girlfriend stormed home, and in an instant, the truth exploded out. Screams, accusations, betrayal, it was all fire and smoke. She called me every name imaginable, said I had ruined everything. And maybe she was right. But then, in the middle of it all, I finally spoke the truth I'd been carrying for months. I wanted to be a father. You told me I couldn't. But now, I am. Silence. Pure, stunned silence. My girlfriend's face went pale, her eyes cold. Without another word, she grabbed her keys and walked out, slamming the door behind her. For a moment, the world was still. Just me and her sister, standing in the wreckage of everything that had just fallen apart. And strangely, in the middle of all the chaos, I felt hope. But then, just when I thought the storm had finally broken, she looked at me with trembling lips and said something I never saw coming. There's something else you don't know. There's something else you don't know. Those words hit harder than anything she'd said before. I stared at her, bracing myself for another blow. She took a shaky breath, her hands pressed against her stomach as if to steady herself. I wasn't even going to tell you at first, she admitted softly, because I didn't think you'd believe me. But I didn't just come here for me. I came here for you. I swallowed, my voice barely working. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with tears. I've seen the way she treats you. The way she breaks you down, makes you believe you're less than what you are. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You deserve better. And this baby, her voice cracked, this baby deserves better too. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. I felt the weight of everything crashing down. The betrayal, the love, the heartbreak, the unexpected chance at fatherhood. But then, beneath all of it, I felt something stronger, clarity. My girlfriend's words had haunted me. You'll never be a father. Yet here I was, standing at the start of the very thing she swore was impossible. It wasn't how I imagined it, not even close, but maybe life doesn't hand you perfection. Maybe it just hands you moments and asks what you'll do with them. In the days that followed, everything changed. My girlfriend moved out, cutting ties with both me and her sister. It was messy, painful, and there were nights I questioned everything. But every time I felt that doubt creep in, I'd remember the heartbeat we heard at the first doctor's appointment. That tiny flicker on the screen, proof of a life beginning. Proof that I could be more than what I had been told. And as her sister, now the mother of my child, stood beside me, I realized this wasn't about forbidden love or scandal. It was about second chances. About finding strength in the most unlikely places. About realizing that sometimes, the people who believe in you aren't the ones you expect, but the ones you need. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be judgment, whispers, broken relationships that might never heal. But as I placed my hand over hers, feeling the warmth of life growing between us, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to run from this. I was going to step up. I was going to fight for this child, for her, for myself. Because in the end, being a father isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. About proving, day by day, that love is stronger than doubt. And as for the words that once haunted me, you'll never be a father. Well, I guess life had other plans.